Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our very first Teaching Tuesday with the Kentucky Public Retirees. We are so excited to be here with you today and provide you information. We do want to make sure that everyone does have a piece of paper and a pencil so you can take some notes as we get started here today. To begin, just a few housekeeping type things. We are in listen only mode today. So if you do have a question, there on the bottom of your bar, there is a little thing that says Q&A with like two little bubbles from like the comic strip. Go ahead and click on the Q&A and you can type your question in there. Carly and I will be monitoring that as we go throughout the program. And if it's something that is beneficial to the entire group, we will answer that in the group presentation. And if it's something that's more a personal or individualized question, we'll answer that one-on-one with you. I do encourage you to take out your phone, put it in the camera mode, and you'll see here in the top right-hand corner of the screen is the QR code. That is how you can also ask us specific questions or schedule a benefits review with either Carly or myself. So we can actually go in depth more with your questions today. And the last thing that I wanted to make sure that folks knew is today is an informational session. We do not attest or claim to be legal experts or tax experts, but what we want to do today is give you a lot to think about. And after the program, I will actually be sending every person an email with a couple of the handouts from some of the things that we are discussing today. So you have those. It's not that you'll be joining a mail list or anything. It's just we want to make sure that we get you a couple of the tools that we have for your benefit in your hands so you can use those. So again, we'll be talking a little more high level and arm you with those questions for things to consider. And like I said, we are so excited here at AMBA to be working with the Kentucky Public Retirees. This is a pretty new relationship that we have. And so many times as we sit down with the KPR members across the state, one of the first questions is, what is AMBA? Well, folks, AMBA is actually stands for Association Member Benefits Advisors. And just know that throughout the United States, AMBA works with over 80 different associations representing over 17 million members, and they're all school or public retirees and their family members. And anytime an association comes to AMBA with a situation or a problem that needs a solution, we find those solutions, bring them back to the associations. They look through them. And then what Carly and I spend a lot of our day doing is actually making sure that folks understand how their benefits work, what the association is doing for you, and then also making sure that you're not missing out on anything, because we never want a retiree to say, oh my gosh, I wish I would have known that. And we certainly don't want you spending money that you don't have to. So to tell you a little bit about us on an individual level, my name is Bonnie Norris, and I'm the district manager for AMBA for Kentucky. And I've been with AMBA for about 8 years now. I actually live up in Ohio, but I'm learning more and more about your state. And I shouldn't have said earlier that we were going to start at 2:30 in reference to the Western Kentucky folks, Larry. So I apologize about that. I should have said started at the bottom of the hour. So, but folks, you know, we're so glad to be here. And Carly is there in Frankfort. Carly, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I have been with AMBA here. We're creeping up on a year. I started in April of 2022, and I was actually on the property and casualty side of the insurance industry for 6.5 years before coming on to AMBA. I worked for State Farm for 6.5 years, and I'm from Western Kentucky. Speaking of, I'm from Henderson, but I met my husband and moved to Frankfort. So I live here with him and our 2 boys. So I've been here and developing relationships with all of our retirees so far, and we love it. So
many of you who have attended a local chapter meeting, you've probably seen Carly, because I know she's been getting around to all the chapter meetings. So, and we also have another special guest with us. Carly, tell us who our special guest is today.
Absolutely. We have your KPR president, Larry, on with us today. He's going to give us just a little bit of an update on what's going on with KPR. So Larry, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I don't know how special I am, but I'll take that compliment. Thank you. Really, I wish I had very good news about one of the pieces of legislation that's been filed, and I don't have that. That's of course House Bill 90, which would give our members a 1.5% cost of living increase. Sadly, I don't see that moving in this session. The good news, if there is any, is that we are already starting to plan for a much stronger push for the next session. The next session will be 60 days as opposed to 90. It's an open budget session. It'll be easier to get money appropriated. And we've already started thinking about that. Not that we necessarily defeatist about this session, but sometimes you just have to admit the writing's on the wall, and don't see it coming out of this session. Dealing with this presentation, I'm excited when we have presented with this opportunity to do this, and I hope that our members over the course of the year find these to be beneficial to them.
Well, that's great, Larry, and we're excited to be here and answer these questions. We do this for other associations. We call this Teaching Tuesday. So folks, go ahead and mark your calendar. The third Tuesday of every month is our Teaching Tuesday. And each month we try to bring a new topic. And the nice part about this is, you can get your information and never have to get out of your fuzzy bunny slippers or, go out in the wind or I started to say snow, but wind or ice or rain that we see so many times there. And Larry, we're so excited for you to be here with us. Just one brief minute. I'm looking at Betty's picture here. We probably should say something about membership with KPR. Should we not?
Well, if Betty were here, she would tell you, just like she did at our Bluegrass West chapter meeting not 2 hours ago, that if each of our members just recruited one, that would double our membership. That's one of her favorite lines. I thought she was going to be on this, but she had to leave Frankfurt and get back to Shelbyville before she got online. So she may join us before this is over with. Betty's our very strong advocate for membership, and I don't know what we would be doing without her.
And it's so important for our associations to have those members, and that's really our number one priority at AMBA, is to bring members to KPR to make sure that you are strong. So as you go into the halls of the legislature, that they know, that the association is mighty and representing so many folks throughout the state. And obviously, how the association impacts our retirees. Folks, KPR is truly your pension watchdog. If you follow Larry's newsletter, his Facebook pages, he is always there giving you the update so you can enjoy your retirement. And KPR, has a watchful eye out. Our associations also help, preserve those health benefits. And then, like Larry said, he just came from a chapter meeting. Our KPR allows members to connect with other retirees that maybe they worked with or, came through the system together with, and also connect to those local communities. Several of our local associations always do something to help better their community, whether it's through scholarships or just events that they have. So if you're not active in a local chapter, I'm sure Larry and Betty can probably, and Carly can get you set up with that. And then really where AMBA comes in, your association can really help offer you important and exclusive benefits and discounts. And we're going to tell you folks about some of those today and some of those discounts. But, one of the things that as we sit down with folks, we always make sure that what is available through your association. Because many times when you've left employment due to retirement, you may have gaps, and those gaps may be because you had to leave something behind at your employer. Maybe it's something that was never really designed to cover your current situation. Perhaps you've moved. And I know we have folks on here today outside the state of Kentucky. So, we're so excited to be able to bring this type of an opportunity for you to get caught up on your association and things that's going on, through the webinar. Other things that can actually happen is, we can extend benefits to your parents or other family members, things that's going to help them. And then finally, you can prevent you or a loved one from really having to take extended time off, because what we found is when folks have to leave their jobs, to take care of a loved one, a family member, or even have a major health issue, that makes a major impact on your retirement finances. Actually, with ladies, on average, they lose over $360,000 in their retirement because they have to leave early to take care of the loved ones. So, Carly, what kind of things are we going to be talking about today?
Yes. So today, we have some of our main goals. We're going to talk about some of the changes to Medicare in 2023 and how to be a smart healthcare consumer. We're going to go over the changes to Social Security this year. We'll identify the 4 major gaps that, most of our retirees are facing. We'll share some of the financial tips and tricks that you can act on immediately. We're going to discuss the basic RMDs and the recent changes to those. And those are the required minimum distributions. And then everyone's favorite, we will share the latest discounts that Bonnie was talking about earlier to start the new year. And those of you that are receiving Social Security, you have seen an increase of, about 8.7% on average. So, you're looking at about $140 a month increase. So, that's helping out definitely. I feel like every time that we are sitting down and doing benefits reviews, inflation is one of the main topics. So, that increase is definitely, helping out a little bit. But then also, you've seen a decrease in your Medicare Part B premiums. So, last year we were paying $170.10 per month. And this is, based on your income bracket. So, most folks are, they were paying $170.10. This year it has decreased to $164.90. And those folks, mainly your spouses, if they are on a Medicare supplement plan, their Medicare Part B deductible, they have decreased from $233 down to $226. But in Kentucky, we do have those Advantage plans, so we're not worried about that. And then just a few other things that we have seen in 2023 with Medicare. They have increased the number of preventative and screening services that are covered. Many vaccines, whether it be the COVID vaccine, the shingles vaccine, which we have no out-of-pocket costs for. Another huge one that our retirees are really being helped out with are the cost of insulin. We have a lot of retirees that are insulin dependent, and previously they were paying anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 a month for their insulin costs. So, here in 2023, they've capped that at $35 a month, which is a huge, huge help. So, that's pretty big if you've noticed that. So another thing that you may have seen come through the mail is a letter explaining that you may be getting a new Medicare card with a new Medicare ID on there. If you've seen that, don't panic. It's nothing major. There was a very small data breach that affected, 0.03% of Medicare beneficiaries. So, if you see that, don't worry about it. It's nothing that's, going to affect any of your personal information. And, one other thing that we like to point out is, if you are pretty tech savvy, go on to Medicare.gov and create your online account. Because going back to those preventative screening services and vaccines, if you go on and create your account, it will tell you and give you a full list of those screenings and services and vaccines. That way, what you're eligible for.
Those are great points, Carly. And, one of the other things that's happening sometimes when folks start paying for their Medicare, they think that, wow, maybe I'm paying too much. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we did mention that it is income-based. So, if you have had a major life event, so if we got married, if we got divorced, in the unfortunate event that, you had a spouse pass away, if we had a money-making property that, for whatever reason we don't have anymore, if something happened to change our income, there is a form on the Social Security website. It's an SSA 44 form that you can go in and fill out, and that will make your it will bring your adjusted amount down for your Part B premium for that $164.90 amount.
And, there have been so many changes with Medicare itself. I mean, that's a good way to help manage those expenses there. And again, that's, obviously if you're in a higher income bracket, if you're already on the lowest one, you may not be able to. And of course, when you fill that form out, it is up to Medicare to review that and grant you, the change there. But there just have been so many changes with Medicare, and we're going to discuss a little bit of this today. But just keep in mind that sometimes when we sit down with folks to do your benefits review, there's a lot of folks that are unaware of the changes in Medicare and how it really affects them. So just remember that, back when the government fixed healthcare, they did come up with a lot of programs, but then to fund those programs, they needed to find the money somewhere. So they actually looked at Medicare, and from 2013 until 2022, there's actually been $716 billion cut from Medicare, and $260 billion of that came out of hospital services. Over $100 billion came out of home health and skilled nursing, and then all other services there with the Part B. Just keep in mind that's where a lot of your emergency transportation, if you called an ambulance or needed a helicopter to come in to get you, to a level 1 or level 2 trauma center, that's where there may be some drawbacks that way. So basically on the top of all those increases in premiums and everything, there's co-insurance for the Part A and Part B. So just be aware that, some of that happens. And, again, we're not here to say that we're going to give specifics in tax code and things like that. But we do say, make sure that you know your plans and that you're asking questions. So when you look at your plan, whether it's the Humana plan through the state, or perhaps, you have a spouse that's on just a non-state sponsored Advantage plan, or even a Medicare supplement, it's really important for you to be a good medical consumer and ask questions. And so some of the things that we talk about is, what are your copays? Do you know what your copays are? Usually on your card, it says what you should be paying your primary care doctor. And Carly, I don't know how many times we've sat down with somebody and they say, oh no, I'm paying my doctor X amount, but their card says they should be paying Y amount. So become a good medical consumer. Know your copays. What are your deductibles? What's your co-insurance percentage? And then the biggest thing, especially when dealing with the maximum out-of-pockets, dealing with the Advantage plans, is to know your maximum out-of-pocket. So as we look at being a good medical consumer, there's also a few other things to think about. Understand your insurance coverage. What does it pay? What doesn't it pay? Are there things that if Medicare declines the claim, does that mean 100% of it comes back to you? That's probably a yes. So understand what your coverage, what your insurance is going to cover. And even, to the point that if you do have a procedure scheduled, ask those questions. Hey, what is my financial responsibility here? If you have an Advantage plan and you picked it based on the perks and the incentives, maybe you get dental or vision or frozen meals, after you've been in the hospital, know what those perks and incentives are and make sure you're utilizing them. And then ask for pricing transparency. We have folks that have needed an MRI, and they figured out that if they went to one location, maybe it was going to cost, $400, but if they drove across the river to if they lived in Northern Kentucky, drove across the river to Cincinnati, maybe it was going to cost them less. So go ahead and ask that, what is this going to cost me? And shop around for those services. Maybe if you drive five more minutes or 10 more minutes down the road, perhaps that's less of a cost burden to you. And then obviously, Carly talked a lot about the new coverage through vaccinations and things like that. Don't skip your preventative care. Most of the time, those preventative care services are completely free. They don't go towards your copays, your deductibles. The insurance companies want you to stay healthy, because if they can spend a little bit of money on preventative care services, it could save them hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars later on when you have a major health event like a heart episode. So Carly, we talked a little bit about, knowing your plan. Could you maybe just give us a quick review of what probably most of our retirees have as far as their health coverage?
Absolutely. So this is just a little bit of a breakdown on how, your Humana plan, this is the breakdown of the pricing, right? So if you look down towards the bottom, so if you put in, anywhere from 0 to 47 months, so, just under, let's say, if we
4 years,
did,
just under
yes,
4
if we did
years.
under 4 years, unfortunately, the pension system's not going to give you anything towards your Advantage plan. So we're going to pay, the full 252.21 a month. Okay. Then if we go anywhere from 4 years, just under 10 years, then the pension system's going to pay 25% of that 252.51. So they're going to give us $63.13, meaning we're going to pay $189.08 a month. Okay. And then if we go up to the next bracket there, and we are, I forget, you can't see my mouse. I apologize. I'm used to showing. I'm a very visual person. So
How's that?
they're
I didn't see my mouse.
perfect.
Okay.
Bonnie and I are both very visual. So so if we go up to the 120 to 179, we are, the pension system's paying 50% of our plan. So we are paying $125.95 a month. And then up, they're paying a portion every month, all the way up to, if we put in more than 20 years, right, they're paying in full. Okay, so for our Advantage plan.
And Carly, this is just the retirees, correct? Not their spouses.
Correct.
So if folks need help in finding other alternatives for their spouses, that's obviously something that we can help them do there. And then, like I said, knowing your plan, knowing your, what you're paying, that's a good step. But the Humana plan that many of our KPR folks have, run through this real quick as far as, so they can get a base understanding of what their plan does.
Absolutely. The great thing about the Humana Advantage plan compared to most other Advantage plans is your max out of pocket and your deductible. It is the same whether you are in network or out of network. Most other Advantage plans do not have that luxury. They are paying, a certain amount of max out of pocket for in network, and then their out of network is sometimes double. So your annual deductible is $500. Your max out of pocket that we talked about earlier is $1,200. Okay, so for anything outpatient, you're going to pay up to 4% of the cost. And then anything inpatient for hospital care, you're paying $231 per visit. And then when Bonnie mentioned, on your card where it'll say, what your copay is, you have a $15 copay. It should say PCP, so your primary care provider. You have a $15 copay. And then for any kind of specialist, it's a $25 copay. And a lot of times that's where we'll get into that, and folks have no idea, what they're supposed to be paying. So,
and that's real important to know, like I said, to be that good medical consumer. And then, and Carly, that can be that graph and the extensive outline of coverage is available on the, tell us where we can find that.
Yes, it is on the KPPA website, but it's also on the Humana website. And everything, the KPPA and Humana website, they are fantastic because they coincide together. If you go to one, it'll tie you back to the other. So it will be your best friend. So
and just know that even though, you have the Humana plan, you have Medicare Part A and Part B, and, medical expenses can be one of the largest chunks of your monthly financial obligations, or, take the biggest chunk out of your retirement. Just know that even with that, you do have gaps in your coverage. So, and probably one of the biggest things that we get questions about are things like home health care, and because really when it comes to the number one biggest threat to our retirees, it's actually for any type of elder care. And, Medicare is very limited on that, and we won't go real deep into that today, but just know that there are gaps there. There's also gaps when you do have a life event like cancer. And unfortunately, the state of Kentucky is one of our leading cancer states. And especially even when it gets to the cost of just medications to treat cancer or anything experimental, Medicare can be very limited. And then things like the medical transportation. And actually next month, when we do Teaching Tuesday on the 21st, we're going to talk about the expenses there with the medical transportation and just really how limited Medicare is. So just know that everything does, even though you might have that plan through the state, everything does go back to, how Medicare is going to approve the claim or not. So thank you, Carly, for that. As we move into more financially healthy actions in 2023, we're going to focus on four different areas. We're going to talk about spending. We're going to talk about planning and organization, insurance, and really protecting your nest egg. So as we get started, let's think about your three big budget items. If you stopped and thought, it's like, okay, what are the three things that's costing me the most? Some of you may say the grandbabies. Some of you may say the fur babies. But, in general, your three biggest budget items are housing, transportation, and food. And, probably one way to say it is, some retirees still owe on their house. We've all seen the cost of gas at the gas station as we go by. And I don't think hardly anybody can get out of the grocery store for less than $100 anymore. So you can obviously see, some of those three big budget items. So as we think about these and giving you tips and hacks on, how to get some of this into maybe more control, let's talk first about the housing. Now, obviously, we work with many retirees says, oh, I'm just going to sell and I'm going to downsize. Well, that's great, but we also know what the housing market is here, in the past 18 to 24 months. It's a little bit crazy too. So maybe downsizing isn't the best or the best way to go because the market is going crazy. But, think about this idea of house hacking. Now, Carl, you may be a little too young, but, if you catch Nick at Night and see the Golden Girls on, that was a famous show. And really, they were house hacking. They got roommates in, rent a room out. And maybe that's not the best way, but it is an option. We also have several folks that might have a house in a great location near a university or one of the parks around the state where you could actually do like an Airbnb. You could make your house make money for you. Another thing is boomerang kids. I don't know if anybody's experiencing that, but we've seen that a lot here, especially with COVID and folks lost their jobs. The kids and the grandkids came back. So, that doesn't mean that they have to live there for free, folks. Okay. They're adults, have the adult conversation with them. And, they may be able to help with either house payment expenses or even just grocery bills, things like that. And then we have many folks that have outbuildings on their property. Maybe could be a source of income that you could do storage or boat rental, camper rental, things like that. So look at what you have and consider, can I turn this into a moneymaker for me? The next thing I want to talk about here in the middle of the screen is the vehicle expense. And, right now it seems like every morning on the national news for like the last 10 days, they've been talking about the shortage of used vehicles, the cost of new vehicles, the unavailability. So think about, do you have an unused vehicle that maybe you could sell? And the other thing is, perhaps you're not driving it as much. So have you talked to your insurance agent about how is your insurance set up? And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Maybe you're not driving it as much as you used to or driving into the city. Some other things when we talk about meals, meal prep, dining out, we all like to go out so we don't have to figure out what's for supper. Carly's going to be sharing some information about the passport. They can actually get you discounts and savings here because you're a member of KPR. So as we think about, things that we can look at, things that we can do to really give us that financial checkup for the beginning of the year, because this is February. I got a lot of people doing taxes, really reflecting on their last year's finances. So this was the perfect time to do this program. Let's start first with an insurance checkpoint reminder. As we think about the auto insurance, when is it a good time to look at that? Well, obviously when you think about it, or at least when it comes up, for renewal. So really get your policy out, sit down with your agent. And Carly, you come from a PNC background. I know you did this all the time. But look at what is your deductible? Could you save some money by increasing the deductible? Can you pay, from your mattress money? Or could you, and then you could save on premium. Obviously, if you can take on more of a share, you're exchanging the deductible for a lower premium. Think about liability. Did your kids move out? Did they used to be on your car policy? And maybe you don't have teenagers driving anymore. Has that been reflected in your coverage? Think about your mileage usage, like I was talking there a moment ago. If you're not driving 100 miles a day, if you're not driving into Frankfurt or driving into Louisville or Lexington, does your insurance agent know that? Are you still covered for those road miles? Think about affinity discounts. Ask that question. Some companies will do, if you're a public servant, they may have a discount that way. So make sure you're leveraging your experiences that way. There may be specialty coverage where you had a pet or it was tied on, to something of your other properties there. Is that still needed? And then, of course, always shop around. But obviously, make sure that you look at any kind of renewal discounts or accident forgiveness before you just switch. So, folks, hopefully you're writing these down. These are all good tips and things to think about. As we think about the house, have you pulled the policy out and really looked at, how it is written? Is it written on replacement value? Well, there's been a lot happening between supply issues with building materials, and there's also been, especially in the state of Kentucky, so you've had some weather events, some tornadoes, things like that. Look at how your policy is written. What are your deductibles on that? Obviously, if you pay 1% on a $200,000 house, is your house really $200,000 value? So look at how that policy is written. Look at how your house is valued. Also look at the liability coverage. Have you done major renovations? Have you expanded? Have you, changed the property value? And then think about those bundle discounts. Maybe if you do your home and your car together, are there any discounts that way? And then with the life insurance, this is something that Carly and I run into on a pretty much weekly, monthly basis. It's hard to understand life insurance for some folks. Do you still need it? When you left employment, were you able to take some with you? Do you have enough? Is it term? Is it whole life? Have you gotten those policies out? Have you looked to see if there's a nursing home rider on any of your life insurance? Some have them. Do you know that? Do your kids know that? Are your premiums increasing? Is there anything you can do to decrease those premiums? And one of the most important things is when you pull those life insurance policies out, who's your beneficiaries? Have they been updated? Did you stop updating them after 2 kids, but you got number 3 and number 4? So think about the heir, the spare, and the I don't care. So, now's a great time to, really bring this out and look at, ways to maybe save some money. And folks, one of the things that we put together for this program is called an ICOD, in case of death or disaster. And we want to share this. And this is actually one of the things that I'll be sending to everyone. I have a little form here, and Larry was just shaking that little red folder. And Larry, when we designed this program, we thought of you. So tell everybody what that special little red folder is.
This is the red folder that I tell my daughter, if something happens to me, it sits on my printer, and it basically has everything I can think of to tell her to help wind me down and everything she's going to need to do that, whether it's passwords. And I just told y'all where it is. I'm going to have to hide it now. It's what she does, because she is not, I guess it's financially savvy. Yeah, I'm not, but I know detail. I know I'm an accountant. I know accounting details. And so it's basically for her to know what to do. And I had this done while my wife was still here, because I figured I was going to go first. Well, Suzanne died last year. And so I learned a lot, that this wasn't as complete. It was close, but it wasn't as complete as I thought. But now that it's done, now that it's updated, so that what I've learned, it's in here for her to use. And so hopefully she won't have to for a while, but this is important. If your kids or whoever your beneficiary is, can't access your bank account or know what you owe, it just makes it tough on them at a time where they don't need anything else to make their life terrible, because it just helps.
No, and that is a wonderful piece of advice, Larry. And that's why, the big reason we're doing this is just to make sure that folks are prepared, because sometimes the stress that's left on the family is just incredible. Personal story, we lost my father-in-law in October of 2020. Until 2 months ago, we had no idea where the combination was for the safe at his house. And finally, when the cousins started going through their mom's stuff, they found that safe combination. So, we were about ready to take it out and drop it from the bucket off the tractor to see if we could pop it open. So it's good to plan. And, hopefully with the sheet that I'm going to send you, you can start thinking about those things, so you don't leave the family going, man, how are we going to get that? Or what was that? So, we're happy to do this today. So with the ICOD, we've actually divided into 9 buckets. And, Larry's got his red folder. Other folks, have like the little expandable folder here. I have one retiree. She goes back and forth from Florida. She has a cooler that's, waterproof, that zips. She has everything down in there in like the little plastic folders, all of her insurance policies, important papers. If they say hurricane, she just picks up that cooler and away she goes. So it's always with her, and her loved ones know that too. So as we talk about the ICOD, let's go through some of these 9 buckets. And, the first thing is life events. Where's your birth certificate, your marriage license, any divorce decrees? Do you have adoptive children with their birth certificates and their adoptive papers? And this is funny, like here in the state of Ohio, when we had to renew our driver's license, we got the new TSA pre-check. I had retirees that had to drive to another state to get their marriage licenses and their divorce papers. They had no idea where anything was. So, do you know where this information is? The next bucket talks about life insurance and retirement. Do you have those life insurance policies? Have you looked at the beneficiaries? Have they been updated? What about your death and service documentation, your pension documents? Would your family know, even who to call about your pension? Any type of annuity paperwork and details about your state pension entitlements. Because folks, if you don't have kids that are working in the state system, chances are they have no idea how the pension and the entitlements work. When it comes to the banking bucket, what are your bank accounts, the account numbers, the passwords, the logins, the credit cards, the safe deposit boxes? My grandfather-in-law will be 102 in about 3 weeks. And when my mother-in-law started going through, he had bank accounts at like 6 different banks. Some she had no idea. He had safe deposit boxes. And another gentleman that we work with, his father-in-law, when he passed, they went in and they found a brown envelope full of safe deposit keys, box keys. He had no idea where anything was. So they've spent about the last 6 months driving around to the banks in the area, kind of like, oh, does this key fit? Does this key fit? So make sure that you have that documentation put together. Do a roadmap or a treasure map for your kids, so at least they know, where to look. As we look at assets, do you have, your deeds and everything from your property, your vacation properties, your cemetery deeds, any types of timeshare ownerships, your car titles, stocks, bonds, 401ks, and those passwords. What would your kids need to be able to go in and unlock that information? Any types of bonds, proof of loans made, because that goes toward liabilities. What about your mortgage details? Do you have a reverse mortgage? And then your proof of your debts owed, because when you pass, someone's probably going to want that money. So make sure you have that list so your loved ones know, what is still owed. And then your monthly expenses. And as you look at those, with the monthly expenses, your utilities, your insurances, your rent, your mortgage, your loans, your memberships to KPR. When you pass, does your family know to contact KPR? The other thing is any types of subscriptions. And so many of us anymore just have like our streaming services, those subscriptions, they just come out automatically. Do you have a list of those somewhere so the kids know what the 99 cents is for on your credit card bill? So really put those things together. And then email and social media. And Carly is my guru when it comes to social media. But I will tell you, get a book. And my mother-in-law has one that says, I think it says a bad word on it, but basically she has this fancy book that she puts all of her passwords and accounts and everything in, that gets something to record all of your password accounts and where you have it. Because when someone passes, if you don't go into Facebook, that person lives on forever, don't they, Carly?
Oh, yes.
So, have that information, your cell phone account number, your streaming services, your computer passwords. I had one retired state trooper tell me one time he actually keeps all of his passwords in like this little 3-ring binder that looks like a cookbook and stores them with the cookbooks in the kitchen, because his theory was no robber comes into your house and steals your cookbooks. So that's where he kept all of those items. And then our next bucket here are the contact details. Who are all of your doctors? And I've sat down with retirees and, sometimes it's pages of doctors and specialists. Who's your AMBA representative? Carly and I get calls on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. Someone has passed and they found our card in, their mom's or their dad's, important papers in the shoebox. Who's the lawyer, the minister, the financial advisor, who's your accountant, how do you get a hold of them, and then your insurance broker. And then other essentials, obviously, which you've probably worked with an attorney on, are things like your will, your trust documents, your power of attorney. And folks, remember, there's a financial power of attorney and there's a medical power of attorney. And if you have questions on that, contact your attorney, or, Carly and I can point you in a direction. There's also final instruction letters, that last letter, so you can make sure that they don't put the stinky flowers on your casket. They put the ones that you actually like. And then any type of burial or cremation issues. So folks, that is your in case of death or disaster. And remember, it can be just a disaster. If the house burns down, so I guess, Larry, I would encourage you to take your red folder, make a copy of everything, and then throw it in a lockbox somewhere too, in case something happens, disaster wise. But folks, all of this is to make sure, get you thinking, wow, what have I pulled together? Perfect time to do it. We're getting ready for taxes. And like I said, I'm going to email out this iCod. So you now have a guideline that you can go through. So Carly, we've talked a lot about things, a little bit about nest egg. What's going on with the nest eggs right now?
Yes. So we have, 5 major threats that, we here at AMBA and, the folks there at KPR, we like to protect. We like to protect your nest egg. So the 5 major threats are, taking care of elderly parents. We talked a little bit about the death of a spouse or a loved one without life insurance. We talked a little bit about boomerang children or grandchildren. A medical crisis. How are you going to pay for a cancer diagnosis, a heart attack, a stroke? What happens if you have to go to a facility? How do you pay for something like that? But the biggest one is overexposure to the stock market as you age. So I don't know if you have had the courage to open up your statements lately, but if you have, you've seen that the market is not performing like we would like it to, right? And if you have a financial advisor, they're probably not picking up the phone and calling you right now. But if they are, or if you have called them and said, hey, what the heck's going on? What are they telling you? They're saying, oh, well, just relax, give it time. The market always comes back, right? They tell you the market always comes back up. But historically, what we've seen is, when the market has taken the downward spiral, like it has the last 2 years, it takes, anywhere from 8 to 10 years to come back up and, for our retirees to break even. But realistically, our retirees don't have 8 to 10 years to get back up to even, right? So then the question is, how do we protect our money? What do we do? How do we protect our money when the stock market is down 20%, when inflation is at an all-time high, when, interest rates are anywhere from 1% to 2% on a CD? So what KPR has done and what AMBA has done, is they have come up with a tax deferred asset protection plan that guarantees income and money growth with no downside risk. Okay, so what it's going to do, you're going to gain money as the market goes up, but if the market goes down or it stays flat, your money's going to freeze at the highest watermark. Okay. And, the return on this product is anywhere from 4 to 9%, depending on the year. Okay. And, it might not make you richer, but, it's definitely going to keep you rich. Okay. So whatever you put in it, that's what you're going to keep. Okay, so any questions on this product, feel free, reach out to Bonnie or myself. There's going to be another QR code at the end. Scan that QR code. We will be more than happy to sit down with you guys, answer any questions that you have, and help protect your nest egg, help protect your money and protect your assets.
Yeah, and Carly, one of the really nice things about this program, and one of the reasons I think so many of our retirees groups actually endorsed it, was the fact that it actually does include a long-term care benefit also. So, yes. If you do go into a facility and you're not coming out, if you've been in there for 90 days, you can actually have access to not only the money that you put in, but all of the money that your money accumulated. Yes. Without any kind of penalty. So, it's a great program. Many of our folks are at least exploring it because, they are too scared to open those monthly or quarterly statements that they're getting. So, again, it's a great thing to explore. It's absolutely, there's no downside risk, but complete, upside market potential that way. And it is tax deferred. And one of the next things that we'd like to talk about, because we may have folks out there that, do have tax deferred products. And another thing that has changed recently, and Larry may even be able to jump in with some of this with his accounting background, but, when you do put money into the investments, the government, it's never tax-free. But, tax deferred means the government will let you kick the can down the road a little bit before they require you to take money out so they can get their tax off of it. And just as a reminder, that does not apply to every type of vehicle, savings vehicle that you have. But if you do have a rollover IRA or a traditional IRA or any of your 401k, 403b accounts, your 457 accounts, just know that you are required to take a distribution so the government can tax it. And just also remember, the RMDs, required minimum distributions, do not apply if you have any type of a Roth IRA. It doesn't apply to your pensions or, your CDs or the money that you got stuffed in your mattress or your money market accounts, because you've actually already paid the taxes on those. So what is, what and when is an RMD? And this is kind of exciting because there's actually been some changes here with the when portion. But basically the what portion is actually part of your account based on your age, and speak with your accountant, or you can go online to the IRS and get enthralled in the tax tables and everything. But it's a portion based on your age and the amount of funds that you have. So your account balance. The when is the exciting part of this, because if you were 70 and a half prior to 2022, you've been paying RMDs. In 2020, when COVID hit, they actually said, okay, we'll give you folks a break. We won't make you take a required distribution until you hit 72. And now, as part of the Secure 2.0 Act, you actually don't do this until you're 73. So, and remember, your first RMD is by April 1st of the year after you turn 73. So if you turn 73 this year, you just have to take your RMD before April 1st of next year. And then following that first year, those have to be taken out by December 31st. And a couple other things to remember: if you forget, the government rewards you for that forgetfulness and wants 25% of your tax penalty. That did actually come down. It used to be 50%, but remember, it is up to you to make sure that you're taking your distributions. And you can set this up so taxes can be taken out. It can come out monthly or annually. And the other big thing that a lot of times when we sit down with folks to talk about this type of thing is, remember, it does not have to come from each account that you have. You can figure out what your responsibility is, and then take that from your fund that's performing the least. And sometimes folks are like, well, why would I do that? Well, you don't want to take it from your big time performer, that's bringing you a lot of revenue in. Put that over to the one that's not, generating a lot of funds, and you then avert that liability cost, taking it out of your better performing vehicle. Some other things to think about: what do you do with the RMD? You may be at the point where it's like, yeah, I don't need that money, which is great. That's what I aspire to do. But if you have that money, when you take it out so the government can get their portion on the taxes, what are you going to do with it? Many of our folks button up their long-term care needs. Can you get a long-term care program, even a life insurance policy that has either that with it, or maybe you want to leave some inheritance for your family members. You can actually convert it to a Roth IRA, pay the taxes on it. And folks, tune back in with us later on in the year, because there are some big changes coming in 2024 when it comes to that. Some of us are thinking about our grandkids. Maybe you can use that RMD to start a 529 plan for them. Or if you're a charitable type person, you may be able to make charitable contributions to help out, some of those organizations that you're passionate about. And folks, we talk about all of this today, everything from, looking at your car insurance policies to, considering your investments in your RMD, because 58% of us out here are actually worried about outliving our money. So what can we do today to either stretch those dollars or to make sure that we're more financially secure so we don't outlive our money? And a lot of that comes back to the fact that we're all living longer. Statistically, ladies, a third of us are going to live into our 90s. And this has gone up significantly since 1965 when Medicare was started. Okay. So, when it comes to living into their 80s, gentlemen, 2/3 of you are going to live into your 80s. So with all of that, that just puts pressure on your nest egg. So you need to consider, how is inflation and life changes? And what if you get a cancer diagnosis, or, long-term care kicks in? Because remember, this is another little factoid. 70% of us are going to need some type of long-term care. And again, ladies, it's 79% of us will need some type of long-term care. So just remember, we want to do everything we can to help you make sure that your nest egg is protected. And, one of those things is to take advantage of some of the other programs that KPR offers its members. And I always say, Larry, that membership has its privileges. So Carly, explain to us one of the coolest privileges that our KPR folks have.
Absolutely. It is it's that passport to savings. So if you remember back towards the beginning, when we were talking about the food slide, so it is called Passport to Savings. So if you go to myambadiscounts.com and you enter your email in, it's going to ask you for a code, and that code is AMBA Savers, AMBA Savers. It's going to bring up a list of great discounts. You'll just put in your zip code or the city that you live in. Some of the great deals going on. I know for my Frankfurt folks, Main Street Diner, they are on there. They offer some great deals. And then they have some great deals going on right now. There's 30% off for Whirlpool. So if you need some of the bigger appliances, that is super helpful. You can see on here right now, there is up to $20 off on TurboTax. So great deal for tax season. And then, there are some great deals on Sam's and Costco memberships for some of my bulk shoppers, which I don't know if anybody has those boomerang children and grandchildren living at home, but I have 2 boys living here, so we have to shop in bulk. So I take full advantage of that. But there is just a full list of dining, shopping, just great discounts on that program. So that definitely pays for your $15 membership for KPR.
Folks, what I will do is I will send out the information on how you can get onto Passport. And like I said, it's free. You get it because you're a member of KPR. We've had folks save over $800 on hotel rooms for a girls' trip. Like Carly said, 30% off of major appliances. There are literally thousands of discounts on there, and you can design it so it pops things up that are of interest to you. And again, you get that, that's one of the major benefits that everybody can take advantage of by being a member of KPR. But I will email you that. I will email you the iCod. And then, what we ask of you folks is really take into account what we've said today and think about having one of us help you with the benefits checkup. Because when we sit down with folks, a lot of times people tell me it's like, oh, wow, you gave me homework. Absolutely. Because we want to make sure that you're not blindsided, that your loved ones aren't blindsided. We have you, pull things out and say, hey, who are your beneficiaries? And, just know that to schedule a benefits review, just take your phone out, hover over the little QR code there. You can actually type in if you have a question, schedule your benefits review, or if you're not high tech like that, you can always just send me an email, bonnie.norris@amba.info. And, it'll be Carly or I or one of our other 2 team members that are in Kentucky. We have a gal in Western Kentucky and another gentleman in Louisville that's helping us meet the needs of our KPR folks. So are there any questions? I haven't seen anything pop up in Q&A unless I've missed something, Carly.
Nope, I haven't seen anything either.
So just remember, and if you want to send an email or give one of us a telephone call, there's our contact information. I'm Bonnie, that's Carly. Go ahead and do your QR code, and hopefully, we'll see you folks on March 21st for our next installment of Teaching Tuesday, where we talk about I call it the number one gotcha in that's out there with the medical transportation issues. So Larry, thank you so much for being with us today. And we're so happy that we're able to bring this information to your members.
Well, thank you all for doing this. I think it's a wonderful program, and we'll see how this goes through the year, but I feel good about it.
Fantastic. Well, folks, be safe out there and enjoy the sunshine.